Update 35.1 is live, and as always in this video we're going to go through all the changes. The anniversary event returns to LOTRO, and LOTRO's 16th anniversary is starting this week at 10 AM Eastern tomorrow on Thursday, April 20th, and the event continues until 3 AM Eastern on Thursday, May 11th. If people want to learn more about the anniversary and how it works, there is a link to the guide in the patch notes, as you can see. And this guide kind of goes through all the stuff you can do. If you're not sure about the anniversary event, go check that out. And this year's event has new rewards, as always. A lot of cosmetics. There's forged staves, there's new goats, housing items, and more. So a lot of new stuff to check out with the anniversary. And as always, logging in after the starting time will give you your anniversary gift depending on how long you played. Me personally, I will get my 16th anniversary gift this year because I started playing on release. And when it comes to the rewards inside your gift box, if you're a free player, you get fireworks, you get the 16-year portrait frame, and you get the title called Illuminator. If you're a monster player and you get your 16-year gift box, you will get fireworks, the 16-year portrait frame, you get some 5% attack damage, and you get the title Extinguisher. We finally get some news about the raid and the release date. Wethrenlos, the Witch King's Citadel, will arrive on April 26th. So next Wednesday we're gonna get the brand new raid starting at noon Eastern. So Tier 1 and Tier 2 starting at noon Eastern on April 26th. Tier 3 will unlock on May 3rd, so a week later. Tier 4 on May 17th, so 2 weeks after Tier 3. And then another 2 weeks later on May 31st is Tier 5. So Tier 1 and Tier 2 upon release, then a week later we get to Tier 3. And then there's 2 weeks between Tier 4 and Tier 5. And the leading the charge deed for this raid will be available all the way until September 7th. So a long time to complete your leading the charge deed. And some other exciting news: return to Carndum instances. So the 3-man Centaur, the 3-man Taurisgar, and the 6-man Sagroth are now available to play up to Tier 5 in the live game. As we can see here, Sagroth goes all the way to Tier 5 now. That's currently live in the game. With this update we also get the new avatar options for the race of man. When you select and create a new character, a man, you now have all the different options that we've seen in some videos before. A lot of new options, a lot of different looks, and yeah, a lot of people will have fun with this. There's so much customization. You can make your character look just the way that you want. And of course, if you want to change your current human characters and the way they look, you can of course do what all of these people are doing. Go visit the barber and you can change your character's look. The Beorning class gets some nice changes to their marks. The cooldown on these skills are now only 3 seconds, down from 5 seconds, and you no longer have to be facing your target to apply the mark of Grimbeorn. As you can see, if I turn away from this target, I can still apply the mark even without facing the target. So really nice quality of life upgrade, and you can see the shortened cooldown on the mark, making it easier to change the mark if you have to switch it between a couple of tanks or something. Just really nice quality of life changes to the Beorning class. Really minor change for the Brawler, or I shouldn't call it a change, more like a fix. The Brawler can now also barter for their big battle jewelry in Dol Amroth, not just Minas Tirith. So if you want to get your Brawler big battle jewelry, you can now do so in Dol Amroth as well as Minas Tirith. And some of the jewelry for Brawler was actually restricted to use only on Beorning. That has been fixed, and the Brawlers can now again use their own jewelry pieces. For the Captain class, the trait in the middle of blue line, Relentless Optimism, now correctly applies to the blue banner healing as well. So your blue banner healing should be increased by 15% in this update. There should also only now be one version of Valiant Strike, not multiple different versions. And as a yellow captain, when you get your stacks of at the 4, they should no longer suggest that they affect your outgoing healing. That was just a bug. So at the 4, tooltip will no longer say that the stacks affect your outgoing healing. As a red captain, the Blade Brother and Stand-Alone toggle skills will now say in their tooltip that using this skill will prevent the use of the other. So Blade Brother says that this will prevent Stand-Alone, and Stand-Alone will prevent the use of Blade Brother. Also, trading as a red captain into getting Courageous Convocation will no longer prevent Words of Courage to change. When you change into Stand-Alone, Words of Courage changes to Courageous Heart. And before this bug got fixed, this skill would not change if you traded the Courageous Convocation. But as you can see, Standing Alone now changes your Words of Courage to Courageous Heart. It is a good day to be a Minstrel player. Board of Salvation is now once again immediate. Look at this, bolster, and then boom, immediate cord. There you go, Minstrels. Board of Salvation is back to being immediate. And as far as I know, you don't really have to do the trait that was talked about. Board of Salvation is just independently immediate skill. The toggle skill of Minstrel cooldown is now reduced to 2 seconds. So Melody of Battle and Echoes of Battle, 2 seconds cooldown. If you want to change the targets of your toggle skill. Call to Greatness had a tooltip fix for the captain skills, and now correctly says that at the 4 gets reset by Call to Greatness. And if you choose to trait Song of Restoration to make Story of Courage improved Story of Courage, you no longer have to face your target in order to cleanse. You can now be turned away. So improved Story of Courage no longer requires you to be facing your target in order to use the skill. As a blue warden, when you trait blue, you have 25% Shield Gambit healing potency. This potency now correctly applies to your conviction healing, so your conviction heal got a 25% buff basically. We had a fix to the deflection gambit and its melee and ranged outputs. It now correctly in the melee output centers around yourself, a radius 20 meters around yourself, and in the range stance it's instead a 6 meter radius around the target that you're hitting with ranged deflection. Also, as a blue warden, we got a change to Desperate Combat. The way it used to work, obviously depending on your advanced technique, you can have from 1 to 4 charges of Desperate Combat and then uses, and the duration to use those charges used to be 30 seconds with Desperate Combat. So you basically had 30 seconds to use your charges of Desperate Combat or they would disappear. This has now changed. The Desperate Combat charges can be used throughout the full duration of the cooldown. So you have 90 seconds to use your charges of Desperate Combat. So pretty much you have the entirety of the cooldown of Desperate Combat to use your charges. So if you don't want to blow them within the first 30 seconds, you no longer have to. As long as you stay in combat, the Desperate Combat charges will be available for 90 seconds. The blue line trait, Never Surrender cooldown, now correctly displays minus 180 seconds on the cooldown. The Tracery, Fist Gambit damage and critical chance now correctly increases the dot on Resounding Challenge. The red line trait, No Respite for the Wicked, no longer refers to the Offensive Strike Gambit line, but instead the Boot Cauterizing Steel line. The trait tooltip on the offense no longer suggests that Offensive Strike has a morale tap. Warden also received a slight damage increase to their direct damage gambits, the Boot Cauterizing Steel line, and Offensive Strike Unseen Strikes line. And several Warden class traceries were giving the wrong secondary stats on the legendary output, meaning basically that the gold, purple, and teal would have a secondary stat, and then the legendary would have a different stat. That has now been fixed, and they all share the same secondary stat once again. We had quite a lot of changes to the stats of a lot of items from the Karn Doom cluster. And also some good news that all the drop rates and what drops from each class should now be fixed. Guardians should be getting their Guardian Shield. Wardens should be getting their Warden's Shields. Basically, every class should now be getting the correct drops for their class. And on the screen right now, I have screenshots of the new items and the way they look. These are the Brawler class items, the DPS output, and the tank output. Most of these items now actually have new icons, so it's easier to differentiate. So the burglars are different colored now. And from what I could see, the green and the red are the same stat, the exact same stats, and I think they're the best for Berg. So either red or green is what you should be aiming for. And of course, if you prefer some more finesse, then the blue and the yellow are options for you as well. The captain banners got updated, they now have vitality on them instead of morale. And of course, if you already own these items, they should just change to whatever these items got changed to. So the healing banner, the tanking banner, and the DPS banner for captain. For hunter, we have a blue tome with crit on it, which I do believe is the best one. But if you prefer the extra fate, then the red tome is for you. The lore master stick pins now look different in the icons. And for some reason, the stats on the left one, you see all the 4 stats here. They're the exact same as the other 2. But for some reason, of course, there's never a perfect update nowadays, it seems. This stick pin on the left has no 5th stat, so it's just automatically trash compared to the other 2. And Nature's Glory has critical rating, and the Bestial Strength has finesse. So whichever you prefer, the crit rating or finesse will be the best one for your lore master. The Minstrel instruments, I believe, did not change a lot. You still only have 1 for the healing output and 2 for DPS. The arcade chisels got new icons, as you can see, they're different and pretty nice. The healing rifler got the initial healing from Prelude to Hope again. And then for DPS, it's up to you to choose between crit or tactical mastery. Same thing for the Warden etchings, they have different icons now. And the stats, they have vitality. The shield has the highest vitality with mitigations. And the spear and the fist have the exact same stats except for bleed damage and light type damage. That's the only difference in the DPS outputs. So for tanking, you would go for shield and then whichever light type or bleed damage you prefer. Probably bleed damage, I think, for your DPS Warden. And we finally have class items for Beorning, Champion, and Guardian. 3 different bow outputs. So obviously the far right has the highest vitality with mitigations, both type of mitigations. So basically good for every class. While the left one is more DPS oriented with some mastery rating and crit rating. And the middle one is a healthy mix with some decent vitality, tactical mitigations, and crit rating. Some of the stats for shields also changed. These are the new shields that we have. And when it comes to the 3-man earrings, I believe the only change in stats will be this one that I'm hovering over here. I think this earring had maybe outgoing healing finesse. The finesse changed to physical mastery. Other than that, the other earrings seem unchanged to me. I also know that some of the raid jewelry got more adjustments, but that's not something I'm going to cover in this video. If you want to look at the new stats of the raid jewelry, just look in my Discord server in the correct text channel. We have some changes to loot boxes and Ember Gear in this update. The Adventurers and Travelers Steel-bound loot boxes now contain new Alchemist's cosmetic items, including avatar cosmetics, housing items, a steed, and matching war steed appearances. These items you can also get from Myrtle Mint for Figments of Splendor. The loot boxes also now contain a Rust Corgi cosmetic pet, and the Adventurers Steelbound loot boxes now have a chance to drop Delvings Adventurers Vivid Essence boxes, so the best teal essence in the game can drop from loot boxes. And the Ember Gear from Adventurers loot boxes has had the item level increased, and the base item level will now be 478, and with the chance of getting 2 more levels to a max of 480 item level. For Delvings, we now have tier 11 and tier 12 delving deeds going to 100. We have some PvMP news as well. Defeating Tyrant Burzgoth as a free player now correctly advances the objective on your weekly quests. The second tier of the weekly Free People quests now requires 21 Ettenmore's general quests to complete. And we also had a change to Audacity, or a fix rather. Audacity now correctly multiplies the damage by 0.55. So it's reducing incoming damage by 45% rather than 55%. So before today's patch, it was reducing damage by 55, which was too much, but it now correctly reduces damage by 45. The quests in Bale Avarc now correctly requires you to be level 140 to be accepted, so you have to be 140 to accept these quests. There's also a nice little note to let you know which instance you have to do to complete it. We had fixes to the 3-mans as well. The bile tanks can no longer be scions on tier 4 or tier 5. And on tier 4, we now finally will get the correct chest dropping, so you can now again run tier 4 Taurisgar. On the 3-man Saint Lore, the Venom Twisted Reavers that you see on the screen right now can no longer be scions. And there was also a fix to a bug that sometimes you would spawn in and all the enemies would be level 1. And for all of these instances in Cardoom, you can now exit through the entrance gate to return to Bale Avarc. And all the Throne class items now have a max level of 115, not just the Minstrel class item. So every Throne class item are now max level 115. And for the final part, I'll just show the notes, some general changes to how things look, and a mention of the monster changes that got reverted. And the health went from 25% to 15%, but it's already been covered in a lot of videos. The mitigation got reverted as well. Crafting recipes for Gundabad traceries will now use the proper crit item for the recipes profession. And we have some known issues, mainly for animations. Most of these animations are because of the new avatars. As you can see, human rune-keepers. So it's basically a lot of race of man animations. And also worth noting, Burglar and Brawler CC removal skills. So your breakout skill as Burglar and Brawler are currently only working on roots and will not remove Daze, Stun, or Knockdown. So that kind of sucks for Berg and Brawler, but I'm sure this will get fixed as soon as possible. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing to help out the channel, leave a like, join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. If you're playing or looking to play Lord of the Rings online, there is one place you need to be. The Ghyniverse is a community Discord server for the game Lord of the Rings Online. In this server, you'll find anything from giveaways. There's also a frequently asked questions channel that I would recommend checking out first. You'll be able to see when I put out new YouTube videos, whenever I stream. You can also ask for the streamer role, and you'll be able to post your own streams in this server for everyone to see. There's currently over 5,000 members in this Discord, and it keeps growing. You will also find discussion channels about the game, LOTRO. You can ask any questions in the help channel. There's discussions for every single class in the game and PvP. But one of the best things about this server is the best in slot items section. In this section, you can find trait lines for every single class. You will find screenshots of the current best gear being displayed. In this channel, you'll find charts showing what stats you need for your characters, mitigations, mastery crit, finesse, but you'll also find useful information about drop rates in different instances. I hope you will consider joining my server, and maybe one day I'll see you in Middle-earth.